My parents are furious I didn't consult them about buying my house, because they planned that my sister, her husband, and their 3 kids would move in with me. So I said no, and cut all ties with them. My name is Lucy, and I'm 30 years old. I work as an investment analyst, and I'm pretty good at what I do. Some might say I'm too careful with money, but that's just who I am. Growing up as the younger of 2 sisters taught me early on that if I wanted something, I'd have to work for it myself. My sister Sarah is 3 years older than me. She's always been the golden child in our family, the pretty one, the social butterfly, the one who could do no wrong in our parents' eyes. Don't get me wrong, I love my sister, but our parents' favoritism was pretty obvious from day one. It wasn't just about the money, it was about the expectations. They always expected Sarah to succeed effortlessly, while I was just there. Sarah married Tom right after college. He works in construction management, and they quickly started having kids. Now they have 3, Emma 7, Lucas 5, and little Joey 2. They're sweet kids, but Sarah always complains about how hard it is to manage them in their rented apartment. As for me, I've been lucky in my own way. My best friend Jenny's parents own several properties, and they've been renting me a nice 1-bedroom apartment at half the market rate for the past 5 years. They trust me, and I've never given them a reason not to. I've been saving money religiously since I started working, living below my means, cooking at home instead of eating out, taking public transport when possible. All those small things add up. My colleagues often tease me about being too frugal, but I had a plan. I've always dreamed of having my own place, specifically a small country house. Working remotely became more common at our firm after the pandemic, and I only need to come to the office for important meetings. A peaceful place away from the city seemed perfect. Last week, I finally opened my savings account and really looked at the numbers. After years of careful planning and saving, I had enough for a down payment on a modest country house. I spent hours browsing real estate websites, looking at potential properties. Nothing too fancy, just a cozy place I could call my own. I was in the middle of browsing real estate listings when my phone rang. It was my mother, calling with her usual perfect timing. "Lucy, honey, don't forget we're expecting you for dinner on Saturday," she said, her voice carrying that subtle tone of command disguised as a reminder. "Sarah and Tom are coming with the kids, and please try to be on time for once." I arrived at my parents' suburban house at exactly 5:05 p.m. that Saturday. The driveway was already full. Sarah's minivan took up most of the space, forcing me to park on the street. Before I even reached the front door, I could hear the chaos inside. Emma and Lucas were probably chasing each other around the house while little Joey added to the cacophony with his toddler squeals. "Lucy's here," Sarah announced as I walked in, barely looking up from where she was trying to convince Joey to eat his mashed potatoes. The kids barely acknowledged my presence, too caught up in their own world. Mom was in her element, fussing over everyone and everything. Dad was already settled in his favorite chair, newspaper in hand. "Everything's getting so expensive these days," he grumbled from behind the pages. "Have you seen the price of gas? Highway robbery, that's what it is. Tell me about it." Tom chimed in, helping himself to another serving of Mom's lasagna. "And my boss, what a piece of work. Yesterday he comes in. Right? Completely changes the project timeline, without even consulting the team. Who does that?" Sarah nodded sympathetically at her husband while wrestling with Joey's bib. "At least you get to leave the house. Try being stuck in a cramped apartment all day with these 3. I took advantage of the chaos to check my phone under the table. There was this perfect little cottage I'd been eyeing, 2 bedrooms, a spacious kitchen, and a gorgeous garden. The price was right in my range too. I was so absorbed in the photos that I didn't notice Mom watching me until she spoke up. "Lucy, what's so interesting on that phone? You've barely touched your food." All eyes turned to me, and I felt my cheeks warm slightly. I could have made up something about work, but for some reason, I decided to be honest. "Actually," I said, "I'm looking at houses. I'm thinking about buying one soon." The silence that followed was deafening. Even the kids seemed to sense something had changed. Sarah's fork stopped halfway to her mouth, and Tom's endless complaints about his boss died mid-sentence. "Buying a house?" Mom repeated, as if she hadn't heard me correctly. "You?" "Well, yes," I said, already regretting my candor. "I'm just looking at options right now, nothing definite." "What kind of house?" Sarah asked, her voice oddly sharp. "Where?" "I haven't really decided yet," I said vaguely, trying to redirect the conversation. "Hey Mom, this lasagna is amazing. Did you change your recipe?" But I could feel it, the wheels turning in their heads, the unspoken thoughts almost visible in the air. My parents exchanged one of their meaningful looks, and Sarah kept shooting glances at Tom. The usual dinner chaos resumed eventually, but something had shifted. The rest of the evening felt off-kilter, like everyone was playing their usual roles, but with their minds elsewhere. A week flew by, and I'd almost forgotten about the strange tension at the family dinner. Work kept me busy, and I spent my evenings researching mortgage rates and property taxes. I was in the middle of a Zoom meeting when my phone started buzzing with my mother's caller ID. I let it go to voicemail, but she called right back, 3 times. Finally, during my lunch break, I called her back, expecting some kind of emergency given her persistence. Lucy, finally, Mom's voice was bursting with excitement. I found the perfect house for you. You won't believe how perfect it is. Martha. You remember Martha from church? She told me about this listing in her neighborhood. It's absolutely ideal. I put down my lunch and pressed my fingers to my temple, already feeling a headache coming on. Mom, I haven't even asked for help finding a house. But she was already in full swing, impossible to interrupt. It has 4 bedrooms. No, 5. The master bedroom is huge, and there are these adorable children's rooms with built-in closets. Oh, and the backyard. There's already a playground installed, can you believe it? And the location is just perfect, walking distance to St. Mary's Elementary School and the public library. Mom, I finally managed to cut in. I appreciate you thinking of me, but that's not what I'm looking for at all. There was a pause on the other end. What do you mean? I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice gentle but firm. I'm looking for something completely different. I want a small country house, something cozy just for me. I don't need multiple children's rooms or a playground. Don't be ridiculous, she said sharply. You can't just think about yourself. You need to plan ahead. This house is perfect, it's even on sale. Martha says the owners are motivated to sell quickly. I know what works for me, I said firmly. I want a quiet place in the countryside where I can work from home. That's what I'm looking for. She made a sound of displeasure in her throat. Well, don't come crying to me when you realize I was right. The line went dead. I stared at my phone, feeling a mixture of frustration and guilt, but I didn't have long to dwell on it, because my phone buzzed with a message from Sarah. Hey sis, check this out. What followed was a barrage of links to real estate listings. Every single one was a massive family home in the city, 4 to 6 bedrooms, multiple bathrooms, huge yards, all near schools and parks. I quickly typed back, thanks, but I'm actually looking for something smaller in the countryside. Sarah's response was immediate, but these are such good deals. Look at this one. It even has an in-law suite. More links kept coming. During afternoon meetings, my phone kept buzzing with messages from Sarah. Each one was another house listing, each bigger and more family-oriented than the last. I stopped checking Sarah's messages after the 20th house listing. Instead, I called Amanda Chen, a realtor I'd found through positive online reviews. She had a reputation for really listening to her clients, which was exactly what I needed. I want something small and cozy, I explained. A country house, but not too far from the city. Good internet connection is a must since I work from home most days. Maybe a small garden where I could grow some herbs and vegetables. Budget? I told her my range, and her eyes lit up. I think I might have exactly what you're looking for. It just came on the market yesterday. Want to take a look this weekend? The house was about 40 minutes from the city, set back from a quiet country road. As soon as Amanda's car turned into the gravel driveway, I felt something click inside me. The house was perfect, a charming 2-bedroom cottage with white siding and dark green shutters. A wraparound porch hosted 2 rocking chairs, and mature maple trees provided shade in the front yard. Inside, sunlight streamed through large windows into an open-plan living area. The kitchen was small but updated, with butcher block countertops and new appliances. A wood-burning fireplace dominated one wall of the living room. Upstairs, there were 2 modestly sized bedrooms and a full bathroom with a clawfoot tub. But it was the sunroom at the back of the house that sealed the deal. Windows on 3 sides looked out over a well-tended garden with raised beds and a small greenhouse. The owner is motivated to sell quickly, Amanda mentioned as we stood in the sunroom. She's willing to offer a discount for a fast closing. I didn't hesitate. I want it. The next week was a whirlwind of paperwork, mortgage applications, and negotiations. I put down a larger down payment than required to keep the monthly payments comfortable. Every night, I fell asleep looking at photos of my future home, imagining where I'd put my furniture, planning what I'd plant in the garden. When everything was signed and official, I felt like I was walking on air. I couldn't wait to share my news with my family, despite their previous attempts to influence my decision. The following Saturday, I drove to my parents' house for dinner, practically buzzing with excitement. Sarah and Tom were already there with the kids as usual. We settled in for dinner, and Mom served her traditional pot roast. The usual complaints and conversations flowed around the table: Tom's latest workplace drama, Sarah's struggles with the kids' school schedules, Dad's commentary on the economy. Then Mom turned to me with a smile that made my stomach clench. "Oh, Lucy, I'm so glad you're here. I was just talking to Barbara next door. She's selling her house. You remember Barbara's house? She's willing to give us, you, a good price. You should really consider." "Actually," I interrupted, unable to contain myself any longer, "I've already bought a house. The clatter of cutlery against plates came to an abrupt halt. Emma's cartwheel in the background stopped mid-turn. The silence was absolute. I took a deep breath and started describing my new home, my voice filled with enthusiasm despite the tension around the table. It's this beautiful cottage about 40 minutes outside the city. 2 bedrooms, the most amazing sunroom, and there's even a small greenhouse in the backyard. The previous owner had these gorgeous raised garden beds, and, are you out of your mind? Dad's fist came down on the table, making the plates jump. I'd never seen him this angry before. Joey started crying at the sudden noise. What? I stammered, completely thrown by their reaction. How dare you? Mom's face had turned an alarming shade of red. How dare you buy a house without consulting us first? After everything we showed you, all those perfect family homes we found, I felt like I'd suddenly stepped into some bizarre alternate reality. Why would I need to consult you about buying my own house with my own money? Because we had it all planned out. Mom was practically screaming now. Barbara's house would have been perfect. Right here in the neighborhood, plenty of room for everyone. Room for everyone? I repeated slowly, feeling increasingly confused. It's just going to be me living there. The silence that followed was deafening. Mom and Dad exchanged looks, while Sarah sat there with an eerily calm expression on her face. Tom was suddenly very interested in this plate. Actually, Lucy, Mom said, in a tone that made my blood run cold, the plan was for Sarah, Tom, and the kids to live there with you. I stared at her, waiting for the punchline. It didn't come. I'm sorry, what? I managed to choke out. Sarah nodded, as if this was the most natural thing in the world. We're so cramped in that apartment, Lucy. It's really hard on the kids. Your house would have given us all the space we need. She smiled, like she was discussing borrowing a sweater. And since we wouldn't have to pay rent or utilities, we could finally start saving some money. I looked around the table from face to face, waiting for someone to crack a smile, to say gotcha, or burst out laughing. But all I saw were dead serious expressions. Dad's stern disapproval, Mom's righteous anger, Sarah's entitled expectation, Tom's awkward avoidance. You. I struggled to form words. You all just assumed I would buy a house for Sarah's family to live in? Well, of course. Mom threw up her hands. That's what family does, we help each other. Help each other? I repeated incredulously. This isn't helping. This is expecting me to provide housing for 5 people without even asking me. You're being selfish, Sarah said, her calm facade cracking slightly. You know how hard it is for us in that tiny apartment. Emma and Lucas have to share a room, and Joey's crib is in our bedroom. It's not fair to the children. I felt like I was drowning in crazy. The room seemed to spin a little as the full impact of their expectations hit me. They had all sat there for weeks, planning out my future, deciding how I should spend my money, without ever once considering what I wanted or even thinking they should ask me about it. You need to cancel this ridiculous purchase immediately, Mom demanded, her voice sharp with authority. Call your realtor first thing Monday morning. Barbara's house is still available, and it's perfect, right here in the neighborhood. Close to all the good schools and kindergartens. No. I stood up from the table, my chair scraping against the floor. The word came out stronger than I expected, fueled by decades of pent-up frustration. The dining room erupted into chaos. Mom jumped up from her chair, waving her arms. Dad's voice boomed over everyone else's. The kids started crying, picking up on the tension in the room. But we'll be so cramped, Sarah wailed, as if she hadn't heard me at all. Do you know how hard it'll be to get the kids to school from all the way out there? Emma has ballet on Tuesdays, Lucas has soccer on Thursdays. I spun to face my sister, something inside me finally snapping. You're not going to be cramped anywhere because you're not living in my house. None of you are, ever. Is that clear enough for you? The room fell silent. They all stared at me like I'd grown a second head. The entitled shock on their faces was almost comical. Lucy, Mom gasped, clutching her pearls. How can you be so cruel to your own sister? I grabbed my purse and headed for the door, their voices rising again behind me. I couldn't listen to another word. I got in my car and drove home in a daze, their screams still ringing in my ears. Sitting alone in my apartment later that night, memories started flooding back. Christmas 1999, Sarah got the expensive American Girl doll she wanted, while I received the knockoff version from the discount store. They look exactly the same, Mom had said, but they didn't. Our 16th birthday, Sarah had gotten a brand new Volkswagen Beetle when she turned 16, complete with a big red bow on top. I got Dad's old Honda with 150,000 miles on it and a tendency to break down. High school graduation. Sarah's graduation party was a catered affair in the backyard with a hired DJ and custom decorations. Mine was a quiet family dinner because we had too many expenses that month. Apologize. Sarah attended her dream school with our parents covering every expense, tuition, room and board, even a generous monthly allowance. Meanwhile, I spent my senior year of high school applying for every scholarship I could find, staying up late to maintain my perfect GPA knowing it was my only shot at higher education. And now, here we were. After years of favoring Sarah, of giving her everything while I worked for scraps, they'd just assumed they could commandeer my house, the one thing I'd achieved completely on my own. They'd planned to hand over my dream home to Sarah, just like they'd handed her everything else. I was in the middle of packing my kitchen when the aggressive pounding started on my apartment door. The coffee mug I was wrapping in newspaper slipped from my hands, but thankfully landed on a pile of packing paper. "Lucy, open this door right now." My father's voice boomed through the wood. "We know you're in there." I froze, bubble wrap still in hand. More pounding followed. "Go away," I shouted back. "I'm not discussing this anymore. Don't you dare talk to us like that." Dad's fist made the door rattle in its frame. "We raised you better than this." My hands were trembling as I picked up my phone. "If you don't leave right now, I'm calling the police. I mean it." I pulled up the keypad on my phone and deliberately pressed 9, making sure they could hear the beep. "I'm dialing right now." "You ungrateful little." Dad's curse was cut off by Mom's sharp intake of breath. "We'll leave." Mom's voice had turned cold as ice. "But this isn't over, Lucy. You're making a terrible mistake." I listened to their footsteps retreating down the hallway, then slid down against the wall, my heart pounding. I thought that would be the end of it, but I was wrong. So wrong. The first message from Sarah came an hour later. A photo of Emma and Lucas cramped together on their shared bunk bed. "Look how little space they have," the caption read. "Emma can't even have a desk for homework." I didn't respond. Another photo followed, Joey's crib wedged into the corner of Sarah and Tom's bedroom. "He wakes up every time we come to bed. This isn't fair to him. Delete." When I continued to ignore her, Sarah's messages turned nasty. They started coming at all hours, 2 a.m., 4 a.m., 6 a.m. "You always were Dad's least favorite. Mom cries herself to sleep because of you. I hope you're happy all alone in that big house, while your nieces and nephews suffer." I blocked her number, then her Facebook, then her Instagram. But she kept finding new ways to reach me, creating new accounts, using Tom's phone, even setting up fake email addresses. Then the phone calls started coming from other directions. First, it was Aunt Marie. "Lucy, honey, I just heard what's happening with your sister. Surely you can find it in your heart to help family?" Next came Uncle Bob. "Kid, you need to think about what really matters here. Family comes first. My mother's best friend Susan, your mother is devastated. How could you do this to your own family? Even my old high school teacher Mrs. Peterson, whom my mother still saw at church, Lucy. I always thought you were such a kind student. I'm so disappointed to hear about this situation with your sister." They all had the same message. I was selfish, heartless, cruel. I should give up my house, my dreams, my independence to solve my sister's problems. None of them seemed to question why Sarah's housing situation was somehow my responsibility. After 2 weeks of constant harassment, I'd had enough. I went to my mobile carrier and changed my number, giving it only to my workplace and a handful of trusted friends who hadn't taken sides in this mess. Moving day was wonderfully quiet. I hired a moving company I'd never used before, making sure there was no way for my family to track the address through familiar local services. The movers were efficient and professional, and by sunset, I was standing in my new living room, surrounded by boxes and possibility. That first night in my cottage, I sat on my porch with a cup of tea, listening to the crickets and watching the stars come out. No traffic noise, no sirens, no family drama, just peace. I felt something inside me finally relax, a tension I hadn't even realized I'd been carrying for years. Of course, I still occasionally saw their social media posts. Sarah's passive-aggressive status updates about family betrayal and selfish siblings. Mom's thinly veiled posts about ungrateful children and family duty. The comments from relatives and family friends, all taking their side without knowing the full story. But here's the thing. None of that bothered me anymore. Their words couldn't touch me in my new sanctuary. I transformed the second bedroom into a home office, setting up my monitors to face the window where I could watch birds visit the bird feeder I installed. The previous owner's raised garden beds now burst with herbs and vegetables, my first attempt at gardening turning out surprisingly successful. The greenhouse became my weekend project, slowly filling with plants that made the space feel alive and vibrant. My work productivity actually improved without the constant family interruptions. My boss noticed and gave me more responsibility along with a raise. I started taking online courses in investment strategy, expanding my expertise without anyone telling me I was wasting my time or should be focusing on finding a husband instead. Sure, there were moments when I missed the idea of family, not the reality of my family, but the dream of what a supportive family could be. Those moments usually passed quickly when I remembered the peace I'd gained in exchange. I made new friends in the area, other professionals who worked remotely, a local gardening group that met monthly, neighbors who respected boundaries and didn't feel entitled to my space or time. None of them knew my family history, and I preferred it that way. They knew me as I am, not as the person my family tried to force me to be. The funny thing is, I'm probably being more true to my parents' original dreams for their daughters than Sarah is. They raised us to be independent, successful women. They just never expected me to be the one who actually did it. And they certainly never expected me to be independent from them too. Sometimes the best family you can have is yourself, at least until you choose to add to it on your own terms, in your own time, in your own way. And that's more than enough for me.